Is my marriage over? My wife and I no longer have sight. When we first started dating and got married for the first few years, we had time several times a week and it was awesome. My wife was the initiator for both of us and she was all over me for having time at random times and days. I loved that she had the confidence to do it, and even without me realizing it, I stopped doing the initiation because we regularly had time when she turned me on. We have been married for 2 years now. I think for the first few years she was HL's partner and we both had a strong desire and dream to have a child. After many failed attempts to conceive ourselves, we sought help via IVF. We did several rounds of IVF and the tests were inconclusive as to why we can't get pregnant. My wife became very depressed and felt depressed. We became foster parents and had several children in our care in a few years. We had no time during nursing leave as my wife was always worried about the children. I also started drinking a lot around this time, and when I started period she refused because I had been drinking. There were rare occasions when we could have time a few times a year, but it was pretty planned and pre-planned. A year has passed after we stopped promoting to take a break and focus on our careers. During the year I was sober, but the subject of time always seemed awkward to us and we never got it. We didn't even talk about it for a whole year. I wanted her to heal from the emotional upheaval my drinking had caused over the past few years, so I thought it best not to broach the subject at all. In 2022, we haven't talked about weather for about 6 months. We both got new jobs in June and I slowly started to start time and foreplay again with my wife. Sometimes she spent time with me but always said it was like a chore or a lot of work for her. I don't know how she felt about it, as the sessions lasted less than an hour and often only amounted to a few minutes of actual PIV. During this time I also started experimenting with what I think is PE, so I no longer felt like she really liked me with PIV time. I would try many times to initiate or drive time of her by asking her to eat it or just go down with her mouth, but she pushed me away or said that she was disgusting and that she was nowhere in there. In the last few months we've had time maybe 3 times and I've always been the initiator and she's always said I need to try harder or said unsatisfied because of the EP. I contacted my doctor and was prescribed Viagra and delay wipes to help improve the whole PE situation. I told her about the recipes. She commented that she didn't think they would make things better. I told him that I wanted to try and that I especially wanted to please him in time. She started talking about the past and my drinking, which hadn't happened in 2 years completely sober. She told me that we never talked about what happened when I was drinking a long time ago. I told him that he absolutely had to talk about it and I told him that I owed his redemption. I tried to do my best to take care of her and be a better husband. She recently shared that she's very depressed and doesn't want to talk about this or the weather or anything. I asked multiple times and she stated we won't talk about anything. She says she needs a vacation from life. I found a vibrator generic Clito Al Tongue $49 she had been using and mentioned that I want to use it with her together to explore. I know it's being used because it is moved to different places in the house daily and in different bags with cleaning spray. She did not want to discuss it. She said maybe someday I would see it in action. 2 weeks later a second vibrator Lovin' Slush $129 arrived that I found and the next day it was charging. The third day it was moved but looked to have been used. It now is being moved around daily. Few weeks later a third vibrator Lovin's Hi-Fi $200 arrived and I found that it also got charged up and moved. I have not mentioned or spoke of the other 2 vibrators she bought because I don't want her to think I'm spying or that I disapprove. It's fine she uses those, but it seems to me she is getting very obsessed with the toys and obviously is trying to get different or better results from using the 3 different ones. During this time I still tried initiating time and she would decline being tired or not in the mood. Obviously she's timely actively with the toys but not with me. 3 months ago she started staying up all night downstairs and not coming to bed. I have mentioned it makes it difficult to have time because she is now sleeping during the day when I'm working my 2 jobs, then she's on her computer game talking to strangers all night. She also takes the vibrators downstairs her at night, so maybe she's using them when I'm sleeping. I mentioned marriage counseling and she declined. Now she has been staying at her parents to help them with some medical issues and we only talk a few sentences a day via text message. She has only been home here for 1 day during the last 2 weeks. I'm highly suspicious that something big is going on, like she's cheating or is seriously distancing herself from me for some reason. When she comes home tomorrow I plan to talk things out to get to the bottom of this. I love my wife dearly but I feel I haven't had a partner for a long time now and it's only going downhill. She did divorce her last husband before I married her, so maybe this is a pattern for her. Is she cheating on me? Even if not, a person I feel she's using the vibrators instead of me and never giving me a chance to fix or work on improving. I'm extremely lonely and considering having an affair or seeking companionship from someone else, but I'm holding on a thread of hope for my marriage. I think I went beyond the dead bedroom issue, but it is all related and I could really use some help. Story 2. My 38M wife 36F freaked out and hit me when I tried to initiate and I can't get over it. So my story. I am a recovering drug addict, 4 years abstinence from a long line of drug addicts. Also, I was sexually assaulted by an older girl in elementary school. Needless to say, I have self-esteem issues and SOX issues. I am very involved in the therapy and I have learned a lot about myself. His story: his father died 5 years ago, his mother suffered a nervous breakdown and can no longer take care of herself. And both of her living grandparents are very sick and probably won't live very long. In addition, we are undergoing fertility treatments again after an incorrect charge last year. We met in the army, we are now both discharged and have a 4-year-old daughter. So we have always had a very active dog life. My wife tends to be submissive and rarely initiates, but for most of our relationship she never turned me down. We both work and the daycare we live in is ridiculously expensive, so we usually work opposite shifts to minimize the need for care. This means that we usually pass shifts at night. For example, last month we slept in the same bed for 3 nights at the same time. Needless to say, this severely hindered our intimacy and communication. The border broke our marriage. We have definitely drifted apart from each other. My wife now rarely wants football and hardly ever says yes when I start it. He seems tired of 100 different excuses, too much on his mind, not flooded, etc. Flash to about 6 weeks ago, we actually had a whole day off together and we obviously had a million things to do that day and we tackled them together. We hadn't had SOX in 3 months at that point. Our daughter still sleeps about 2 hours a day, and after I put her to bed, my wife came into our bedroom and she started helping me make the bed. We had been pretty playful all day and I kissed her passionately and grabbed the old sheets. I've done it 1,000 times in the past and it usually really gets her in the mood. She screams "let go of me" and kicks me in the eye. I'm 6'32" and been in MMA all my life. She's not even 5 and she's short. It didn't even hurt. But the shock when she hit me and the look of anger and fear on her face broke something inside me. I just got up and left the house. I did some shopping and came home later that night. She didn't even text me while I was away. That night, after our daughter was in bed, I confronted her with WTF, that was it. I told her that I felt like I was trying to impose myself on her. What the hell is happening? Why are you never in the mood? Etc. A huge fight that boils down to her panicking because our daughter was in the other room and she's so mentally drained from everything that's going on. I said that didn't really explain the disgusted look or the slap. Her words: "I'm sorry you feel this way." I had apologized for scaring her, but she didn't apologize at all. Later that night when we were both in bed she tried to start, but I couldn't even get up. I told her to get off me or I would take it off and roll over. I was convinced she was cheating on me and she did all the snooping. She got tracking software and cameras and all that stuff. She talks to her sisters, her best friend, she plays some phone games and social media with baby pictures, that's it. So I compare her on how unhappy we look. That we both seem controlled and if we don't want a divorce we have to make more of an effort. She agreed. I can honestly say we both really engaged. We both read different books and really tried to communicate better. I still don't have much face-to-face time, but that can't really be helped at this point. I can see that in many ways I'm falling in love with her more than ever and she's saying the same thing. Life should be better. The problem is that I have nightmares every night, all night. Horrible dreams of me forcing her or catching her telling her friends about me. He wants to cuddle and my skin is crawling. I usually have a very high craving for soccer and I don't even want to touch it. I don't even get spontaneous wood anymore. My therapist is amazing and he really tried to help, but I feel broken. I have huge trust issues because of my fucking family and it doesn't take much to cut you out of my life. I always thought we were against the word, and now I feel like she's a stranger or an enemy. Has anyone experienced something similar? How to save my marriage? Really need advice. Redditor's reactions update after. Redditor 1, marriage counseling. Side note, please realize how ducked up your paragraph about snooping is because that is not normal, everyday shit. Redditor follow up. Yeah, I was gonna mention that. Like the whole snooping thing is messed up in the first place, and most people don't take it to the level of covertly surveilling their partner's online habits and setting up hidden cameras. Op comment, well WTF, she is cheating. Whole second phone. I can't explain in words how angry I am. Op comment, so I lost them at a red light but was able to follow them to the house their party was at. Ended up getting there about 30 minutes or so after them. Sat stewing in the car trying to calm down for a bit. Heart was in my throat, total lack of sound, everything is slowed down. It's exactly how I feel just before a fight. Grabbed the divorce paperwork and walked to the door. Knocked and a guy asked through the door what I wanted. I said John invited me. When he opened the door I smiled and asked where he got to. Got pointed down a hallway. Walked down the hallway up to the only open door, with nobody there. Only 2 other shut doors. First one I opened was a bathroom, second was a bedroom. There was my wife, arms tied to a headboard, just in bottoms. The look on her face as she looked up is burned in my mind. A few other people were in the room, didn't really pay attention to what they were doing. John had his back to me. I said, "Hi, John." As he turned he seemed a little surprised. I said, "That's my wife." And decked him hard once. His nose exploded and he dropped, put the folder on the bed, took off my ring and dropped it on his chest and said, "Oops, sorry, I was mistaken. She is all yours now." At this point somebody tried to grab me from behind. Threw them off me and walked out. Drove out to a scenic overlook just outside of town and have just been sitting here crying. Redditor follow up, why did you hit the guy? Your girl is the one spreading the legs, genius. Update, what, how do I tell my daughter mommy is going to jail? Long story short, I divorced my wife for cheating. Now to find out her AP was blackmailing her for tax fraud. So now it's all blowing up and it looks like the ex may be gone for a long time soon. How can I talk about this with my 4-year-old daughter? Jail visit? The mind is a little blown. Update, ex-wife who is NC wants to do group therapy. So the full story of my marital disaster is in my article. But to make a long story short, my wife cheated on me, I got divorced and I no longer have contact. I only spoke to her once after I confronted her. His life collapsed. She lost her career. The diploma is worthless now, and from what her sister told me, she lives in her room all day and night apart from the 3 hours a week she has for our girl and has to go to work. She seems to be in therapy now and her sister is making progress but has passed on the message that she and her therapist want to take me for a few sessions. I have no interest in doing this for my own benefit. But honestly, my ex was a great mom before it all fell apart, and if that makes my daughter even a little better, don't I owe it to her to suck my ego and my pride? Even my own therapist said, I don't think that's a good idea. I truly believe you'll do anything for your child, but I'm not above what she did. I trust his sister 100,000%. We have always been good to each other and she has done everything possible to be the intermediary for custody changes to keep NC going. So has anyone else ever heard of this type of therapy? What should I do? Redditor's reactions update after. Redditor 1, if you have your own therapist, and she has hers, why do you need to participate in the therapy for your ex-wife? Op answer, supposedly so she can clear the air and begin healing as her belief structure was so tied into me. Yeah, my eyes rolled so hard they hurt. Even her sister didn't seem sold. Redditor 2, if your therapist says no, it's no. Your therapist is out for your interests. Her therapist is out for her interests. Your therapist knows you. You know you. If you don't want to go, say so. And say your own therapist backs your decision up. Op answer, agreed. My only real hang up is for my daughter. I grew up with really ducked up parents, so it hits me hard that she has crumbled so bad. I would do anything for my child. That being said, I don't think I could do it, so we'll probably reach out to her therapist like others here have suggested. Redditor 3, lol no. Also, as a therapist I would never suggest bringing someone in who is NC with my client. Your ex can work on her asset alone. Update, moving on and moving up. So my backstory, I am a recovering addict, 4 years sober from a long line of addicts. Add to that I was molested by an older girl in elementary school. So needless to say I have some self-esteem issues and issues around time. I am very involved in therapy and have learned a lot about myself. Her backstory, in the last 5 years her dad has died, mother had a mental break and can no longer care for herself. And both of her living grandparents are very ill and likely won't live much longer. On top of that we are going through fertility treatments again after a miscarriage. Add in a little autism spectrum as well. So she had plenty of reasons to be in a dark place. We met in the army, we are now both discharged and have a 4-year-old daughter. We've always had a very active S-time life. My ex was pretty submissive and rarely initiated, but for most of our relationship he never turned me down. We both worked and childcare is incredibly expensive where we live, so I mainly worked nights to minimize the need for care. That means most of the time we were passing ships at night. Needless to say, it had severely affected our intimacy, our communication, and our marriage. We had definitely separated. My wife rarely wanted S-time and almost never said yes when I started. She gave 100 different excuses: tired, too busy, didn't shower, etc. One day we had the whole day off together, and while we made the bed and let off steam. At this point we haven't had an S-time in 3 months. I picked it up and playfully caught it on the old sheets. One of the reasons she didn't spend S-time is because she didn't want to change the sheets, new sheets. I had done this 1,000 times before and she generally loved it, and that really set the mood. This time she shouted, "Let go of me," and punched me in the eye. It didn't hurt. I'm 6 feet 3 inches 245 and I've been in MMA all my life. She's not even 5 and short. But the disgusted look on his face confused me. Besides being molested as a child, I had nightmares for weeks of not being able to get up when she tried to initiate herself as an excuse me. She gave me all kinds of bullshit and excuses, but it just didn't sit well with me. It was the disgusted look I couldn't get over. I was convinced she was cheating and dug this whole spy thing through all her social media, apps, emails, etc., but found nothing. I confronted her about how disconnected we were and checked out. How I loved her and wanted to save your relationship. Let's go to counseling and start communicating better. Our relationship really started to change and I was so hopeful. About a month later I'm cleaning her car and found a second cell phone. Same lock code and massive bingo SMS and emails. Apparently she has a master and he's been blackmailing her for some time. Apparently, she had helped some of her clients hide assets from the IRS and state tax collectors. He grabbed her and wanted time to keep calm. I can see her rationalizing and moving on, but I don't know why she didn't tell me that I left no stone unturned for her. The next question I always get is, what was so bad about him? He had a F-tish CCK, he wanted to CCK me. The dude is maybe 5 feet 8 inches, overweight, 45, with maybe a 5 inches member. He was supposed to finish in her mouth and send her home to make out with me. Finish in her vagina and let her beg me to go deeper. Shit like that. I even took her to S-time parties. So I talked to a lawyer, set things in motion, took a night off without him knowing, and followed them to one of their parties. Walked into the party and found out what room they were using so people could watch them. I wiped some sweat off his nose and he fell asleep. I dropped the divorce papers and my ring on the bed and walked out. I no longer have contact with her and I am moving. Then all the texting and calling started. Sorry, I want you back, don't ruin our wedding BS. I told him to talk to my lawyer unless it was about our daughter. My attorney came to me with this agreement that my ex wants to meet me in person, and if I do he will sign an uncontested divorce and give me primary custody, leave the house and my pension alone. In my state, if you have a penis, you lose in a divorce in court, so this was a godsend as I didn't want to waste my time with my daughter. In the meantime, I've really focused on myself. Hit the gym hard and spend some extra time in my MMA gym, in the best shape of my life. Still heartbroken, I love this woman and to be honest I still do. That's part of why I don't want to meet her. I honestly couldn't have imagined how I would have forgiven him if he hadn't given me his CM bullpoop. So let's meet. It looks like a heated death. According to her sister, who I am still very close to and who she is in custody, she stays in her room and cries. She sees a therapist, goes to the IRS and works with him. Give me their relationship schedule and ask us to get back together. I am his life, etc. I was so angry when I heard Esset Bull. She says she would do anything for me. I tell her that she will never contact me or talk to me again. All communication goes through his sister or his lawyer. Long story short, he blows up our marriage, loses his accounting credentials for life, pays hefty fines, ends up in a vacant room with his sisters on a no minimum wage job. I had my daughter's pension, home and primary custody. She only gets it 1 day a week. I have my bad days, but I'm in better shape than ever and have 2 very beautiful women in FWB situations. I've never had the ego hit that many husbands get because I'm so clearly superior to this shit, but I don't know if I'll ever fully trust another woman again. My advice to anyone going through this: stay strong, respect yourself, know that their actions have very little to do with you, and you will be fine. Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1, good for you, for sticking to your decision. I only wish I had your determination and focus. I screwed up and took her back, only to have my heart broken even worse, the second time. Redditor follow up. Same here bro. If you're reading this and considering taking a cheater back, this is your sign to grow some balls and send him to the streets. Once a cheater, always a cheater is true for like 97% of cheaters. The other 3% don't just reform overnight though. It takes years to change who you are as a person. Don't take them back. If there's a possibility of you guys working out, it's several years down the road. Best to move on for now and let them grow as a person as well for a couple years before even considering reconciling. Redditor 2, holy forking acid. Redditor 3, she fought you off of her. For that guy, for his fantasy. She saved his name as master. Why would she need to do that if she had a second phone? She was 100% into it. She probably signed everything over to you as a form of submission, hoping you'd take over her. Sickening, when you can't separate family responsibility and personal wants. The guy knew about the IRS stuff. Did he get arrested for aiding and abetting? Op answer, his name wasn't saved as master, was just a number. It was the only number in the phone. He told her to call him master. My wife is naive enough to go through with this honestly. Word on the street is he wants her back, but she isn't with him, so who knows? I looked in her eyes, I know how remorseful she is, and I have forgiven her, but I cannot and will not ever take her back. The amount of money wasn't all that much. As far as I understand, he got a bigger fine than her and more community service.